welcome to this episode of Chatting with Stacks. I'm your host, Bill Stacks, and today I got Jack O'Halloran.
In King Kong, where they went to New York to shoot the ending of the picture, so we were sitting, and I was hanging out at the beach every day. It was kind of cool. So they offered me a picture up in Seattle, Washington, with Wilder and Pryor. Paramount wanted me to do it really badly, and the producer for King Kong said, you can let him go, but he's got to come back to finish the movie. And the time frame would have worked out pretty well. And I was sitting at the beach, and I said, well, why should I leave the beach? I'm having a good time. And I should have done that. I wish I'd have done the movie, because Pryor was a good guy, and Gene Wilder was brilliant. So it was, but I just didn't want to get into doing these dumb roles, you know?
Yeah.
The Bond movie to me, it was a big dumb role. And I remember when Cubby and them came to my agent, and he was sitting in my agent's office, and I was around the corner at a restaurant with Mitchum. That was his birthday, and I was getting him loaded. And I said, I got to go around the corner and meet these guys that came from London to see me. And he said, for what? I said, they want me to do this James Bond picture. He said, you read the script? I said, yeah. He said, you like it? I said, not really. He said, tell him to go to hell. Mitchum was a trip.
So
I walked around the corner and I said, yeah, I got to do this picture, March or Die. I already signed to do it, and I can't go back on my word. Dick Richards was the director who directed Farewell, My Lovely. So,
what character did they want you to play?
In March or Die?
No, in 007.
They wanted me to play the guy with the teeth.
Oh, yeah, with the metal teeth, right?
Yeah.
Did you notice Kanye West has these metal teeth, and he talked about you?
No, they know that. Richard Kiel did the part. He was a little bit taller than I was. But it was like a walk-on villain guy. And I don't know. I just didn't. So it worked out much better because I did Superman.
Did you guys have a good relationship, you and Richard Keeler?
Yeah, Richard was a nice guy. We met him a few times at Comic-Cons and stuff. Richard was a good guy. His wife, here's a guy who was like 7'2". His wife was like 5 foot.
Yeah. I mean, you guys are abnormally tall.
Well, I was only 6'6". 7'2".
Yeah, that's like a whole foot on you, right?
Thank you very much.
Make you look small. You're like, hey, man.
Mitchum was about 6'2", 6'3". We had a lot of fun. I enjoyed working with him. It was good.
So, did you get typecasted with your roles? Were you always the villain, or did you look to play other roles?
God, good question. I wasn't a villain in King Kong. King Kong was a foreman of an oil crew, and Baltimore Bullet was a villain. Here in the most of the villains,
yeah, which
worked out. And I did some television things that they were all villains. Perry Mason show, and did Murder, She Wrote. Did some great TV shows. Angela Lansbury, she was great to work with. She was a really nice lady. I liked her.
You've been on a lot of iconic movies and shows.
I'm very lucky in my career. I mean,
Dragnet was huge.
Dragnet was a great movie. Dan Aykroyd and Tom Hanks.
Yeah,
you could see Dragnet 50 times, and you would still not get all the one-liners that Danny Aykroyd threw out.
Yeah,
he walked around with an earpiece with Jack Webb's voice going in his ear all the time, and that was Tom Hanks's breakout movie. So, and they had a great cast. Christopher Plummer was in it. It was we had a good time doing it. Dragnet was fun.
Where was that one filmed? In LA, right? Yeah.
Filmed right in LA.
So, any funny stories from that time?
No, it was a good set. We had a good set, and we had again, you're working with really good actors. And Danny Aykroyd was a hell of a guy, and Tom's a nice fella. So we had all the Playboy bunnies. It was a trip. Yeah, we had a good time.
That was
Director
back
was a
when
good
they,
guy, Tom Mankiewicz. Huh?
yeah, that was back when they had the Playboy,
Mansion.
the restaurant too, up in Chicago, right?
Well, they
And
had
they
that
had,
in Chicago. They had restaurants all over the place.
yeah.
We filmed it out. They had the Playboy Mansion was in L.A.
How was that? I was going there.
I don't know, man. I can't remember.
What happens at the Playboy Mansion stays at the Playboy
Some
Mansion,
things you
right?
don't kiss and some stories you don't kiss and tell.
Yeah.
But it was good. It was a good film. It worked out well. That's it's when you're working with. I mean, like I said, I worked with a lot of really serious, very good actors, and yeah. But I blame it all on Robert Mitchum.
Yeah. So so when you're not acting, right, and you're just living the nightlife or whatever's going on, is there any memorable situations that stand out in your mind?
Well, it's just I think writing the book and stuff has created a lot of stirred up a lot of people. And there's a lot of old timers and friends of mine that come from that world that want to tell the truth now about a lot of things that happened. When I first wrote the book, they said, "Well, God, aren't you worried, man? People are going to retaliate against you and all this other jazz." I said, "Well, if you have tried, if you have died, and I'm still sitting here talking to you." So, no, I wasn't worried. And it turned out to where everybody actually embraced it. And they would rather, they'd like to see the truth come out. There's so much fiction that, Hollywood takes liberties with a lot of things. Making movies about organized crime and stuff that the stories are fantasy.
Yeah.
Like they did The Irishman. The Irishman was done and Frank Phelan never killed Hoffa and he never shot Joey Gallo. But because no one ever proved who did, Hollywood took advantage of a guy who, Frank Phelan, I knew him, he was from Philadelphia. And he was a driver for Russell Buffalino, who was in Pennsylvania. Russell was one of the strongest political dons in the country, tied into Washington. And his cousin Billy was a lawyer. And Frank Phelan was a driver for him. They wrote a book called We Paint Houses. And yeah, he whacked a couple people, but nothing like that they put in The Irishman. So
They tried to spin it and make it
well, they tried to make it that they told the truth about what happened to Hoffa and Joey Gallo and when he got shot in a restaurant. Phelan didn't do either. And they made it believe that he did. And just like I said, Hollywood taking liberties on things. And so it's time to come out and tell the truth. And people, especially with the Kennedy thing, everybody's dying to know what really happened. Now they're coming out. All of a sudden, there's books coming out, people coming out saying that, there were so many shots fired that day, and they're talking about the Greer shot and all that stuff. And one guy is saying that Greer shot Connally and Kennedy twice, and that's bullshit. The only person he shot was Kennedy, and that was the last shot that was taken.
And there was the Fall Guys, and it was a pretty intricate thing.
Well,
right?
There were so many stories and so many lies told about it. And, the whole Warren Commission was total bull. There was made up about the one bullet theory, and they made Oswald a patsy, and he wasn't even in the building. And there were so many proofs that he wasn't even in the building. There was a jail right across the street from the Byrd building, and the guy's sitting there looking right at the window that Oswald supposedly shot Kennedy from. And the rifle that was used is no way that they could shoot 3 shots in 28 seconds with any kind of accuracy.
Little $10 rifle from catalog, right?
Yeah, it was from a catalog, right? So
Yeah, Sears.
the whole thing was just far fetched. You know what I'm saying? So it was well planned out. The guy who did it and who planned it was the first hit that he ever did in America. There was no tourists in Europe. And they just, so it's time to tell the truth about a lot of things. So that's why Family Legacy is going to work out very well.
So where were you in your life when you found out that Kennedy was killed? Do you remember that day and that moment?
I was there.
Oh, you
I
were
was
in
in
Dallas?
that day.
Oh,
I was
shit.
there.
I didn't know you were in Dallas that day.
Oh no, I was there. I was at Murchison's house the night before. They had a party called Egyptian Nights, and it was for Hoover. Hoover was a guest of honor, and Clint Murchison Jr. owned the Dallas Cowboys in the stadium they played in. His father was the wealthiest guy in the world, and Meyer Lansky arranged for me to go. I was on the premise that I was going to play for the Dallas Cowboys, and that was my entree in. I met a lot of people who were at this party, including a guy who was the head of banking in New York, and there were 4 presidents there, and there was just a lot of serious people. So it was an education. I went there for an education.
Yeah.
And I watched Johnson come in after Kennedy had landed. Johnson came back to the party about 11:30 at night, and they all went into a room, and I left. And I was supposed to leave Dallas, but I stayed. And I was out running the next morning, and Johnny Roselli was running. I ran right past Johnny Roselli, and he's a hitter from Chicago. And he said, "You're not supposed to be here. What are you doing here?" And I said, "Oh, I just thought I'd hang around a little bit." So I was there at Dealey Plaza when all that shit went on.
Wow.
We had 13 shots fired that day. It was all they said it was a one bullet theory. It was a total fallacy. And the car had several bullet holes in it. So they took the car right away to New Orleans to get fixed so that no one would ever see the bullet holes so they could collaborate their stories.
And how many people were shot that day?
How many people were shot?
Yeah, wasn't one of the passengers shot too?
Well, Conley got shot.
Right?
Conley got shot, and Kennedy got shot 3 times. Got shot in the lower back, got shot in the throat, and then he got shot in the top of his forehead, blew his head out in the back.
One bullet did all that. It did a circle.
No.
No, that's what they thought, right? That was the one bullet theory.
From the window where they were talking about, the car was already down Dealey Plaza. If they'd have shot him from the window, it would have been, they'd have hit him in the back of his head, it would have come out the front. You understand? Yeah. So it was impossible for what they were talking about that happened. And, and the one bullet went through part of, he had a hole in his neck, and they covered that up with a tracheotomy. They said, they did a bum job. And his autopsy was done by a bunch of interns. Then they put a body on a plane, they flew him to Washington. But the key to the thing was his brother Bobby was his brother's second skin his whole political career. 4 people went to see Bobby before Jack went to Texas and told him, "Do not let your brother go to Texas. The animosity down there is horrendous." One of them was Adlai Stevenson. And Adlai Stevenson said, "I was just in Washington, people were spitting at me," and all this other stuff. Bobby didn't go before, he wasn't there during, and he never went afterwards.
Because he knew.
They knew that Jack was going to, and Jack Kennedy, there's another thing that nobody ever talked about. Jack Kennedy wasn't going to live out his political career. He was dying of diseases. He had Addison disease, he had syphilis, he had 2 other diseases. They used to shoot him up every day just for him to walk around. So his father would have rather seen him die the way he died than to die with a medical problem and put a mark on the family.
Yeah.
And you could say that's kind of cold, but look what he did to his daughter. He lobotomized his daughter. Rose sat in an institution all her life, looking out a window.
So after that happened, right, after the assassination, what was the mood like in the country? And
it was heart-rendering. You're talking about Jack was a hell of a politician. I like Jack Kennedy. Jack Kennedy was a good politician, but he died for the sins of his father. And it was just, it was a terrible mood in the whole country that the president of the United States being shot on television like that, you know. And they played it up with the kids going to the funeral and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And Jackie and it was just was a black era for the country.
And then they say that they have his brain in a jar somewhere
in the jar in the museum,
right? Yeah, like how do they have his brain if you watched it go out of his head in the video?
It just shows you the farce of the people, you know, bullshit. They tell so many stories and everybody bites into it, man. It's just, you know, so it's time to tell the truth and put things straight.
I heard people don't want to hear the truth because it's going to be so shocking.
Well, there's people that are really dying to know the truth, and they know that, you know, there's been blurbs about this. Now there's all kind of books coming out. People are saying, oh, well, the guy, there's one guy who was on the car behind Kennedy's car, and he was a Secret Service guy. Now he's come out writing a book saying that he knows there were 3 shots fired. Well, there were 13 shots fired, but he's talking about there were 3 now that he knows distinctively. So the one bullet theory goes out the window right there. And you have a dozen different people talking about writing books about this part of it and that part of it, and all of it's just theory, you know.
And is there film that hasn't been released of that day?
There's a Bruder film, but that's been released now by the FBI and shows Greer shooting, putting the last shot in.
Yeah,
they originally cut 8 frames out of the film. The film, Zapruder shot that film. That film was sold to Life magazine for $150,000 before it was ever shot. Before it was ever shot, they bought the film, and it didn't show for a year. And they cut 8 frames out of it. And the 8 frames were the frames where the driver turned and took the last shot. But then they put them back in. They found out there was a copy going around, so the FBI all of a sudden said, oh my God, we got to show the original. And so they, you know, so then I thought I sent you that.
Yeah, I did. I seen it. I was like, wow. You can see the whole thing. It's clear as day. I can't play it on YouTube, but I can put it on another platform and see it. Yeah, they won't let you play things like that. It's too graphic.
Well,
what do you think of Robert F. Kennedy, the nephew?
Hold on one second. Hold on a second.
Here, I'll pause it. So, what do you think of Robert F. Kennedy running for president?
Oh, I understand he's a nice young man, but I think his life is in jeopardy if he does.
No, he is. He is running for president, and
I think his life is in jeopardy if he were to win the thing, which I don't think he has a chance of doing. But if he were to win it, I think his life is in jeopardy. But that's, you know, who knows?
And they won't give him Secret Service protection.
They won't?
No.
Well, he's
one of the only presidential candidates to not receive Secret Service protection.
I didn't know that. I didn't read that.
And there's been a lot of threats on his life and different
well,
things.
It's going to be the untold story about why first Joe, then Jack, then Bobby, and then the disgraced Teddy. No one's ever told the truth about why all that happened. And we're about to do that in Family Legacy. And they made a statement that another Kennedy would never, ever walk on the White House steps again. So if the young man if he were lucky enough to win, I think his life would be in jeopardy. I really do.
And why did the plane crash? Bobby Kennedy, right? Was it Bobby Kennedy that the
No,
plane?
it was Jack Jr.
Jack Jr.
John Jr.
Wasn't there something on the plane?
No,
at the time?
he was going to take his mother's memoirs and go to Hollywood and make a movie.